GM, everybody, good morning. Welcome to Wealth Wednesday.
All right, Matthew, today is the day. Are you ready for this?
Today's the day. Awesome. Awesome Blossom Wealth Wednesday. All right, good morning. Gosha, Gilda, Heidi, Guadalupe, and Mary, Ada, and Freddie. Awesome. Doug, Carla, good morning. Good morning, everybody else. Let's jump into this. Helios. Hey, we may be getting an update to the Helios app here pretty quick. There's a big battle going on in the app world right now with Google Play Store, with Apple's App Store. I don't know if you know this, but Apple charges 30% commission on anything you sell through your app if your app is hosted on their app store. So could you imagine that? We sell a $26,000 program, and then Apple wants a 30% commission just because we're using their app. So there's been a delay. A couple big developers actually sued Apple last year and won. The court ruling gave Apple like 2 years to adjust some of their algorithm things so that more people could participate. So anyway, we're right in the middle of that, and it looks like we may be getting some new functionalities for our app, which would be awesome because then we can do the notifications the way we want to, and the updates a lot easier. So good news, it's working. Hey, looks still in the same top 10. That'll probably be updated tomorrow. Anyway, congrats to all of you. Big reminder, our focus here is on the summit. Now, for me, what I'm going to be doing is mostly warm market, old leads, and I'm going to be doing a social media campaign. I've never really done one. The way I'm going to be doing it, this big, I think I told you guys, the goal is to make $1 million, right? Like Renatus made this space for us to go and work in, and we can decide how much money we want to make and to what end. And so with how much time, energy, and effort the corporate team is putting into this event, I'm going to put some big effort into it as well. So we're going to have ads on multiple websites. We're going to have our own website funneling to ticket sales, have the drip campaigns. So warm market, my old leads, and this new campaign. But guess what? This new campaign is going to cost money. If I was just getting started, there's no way I'd be doing what I'm about to do. I would just go door to door with flyers. I would go to the networking events. I would call, actually, these are the things I did do. I also called my warm market and found some sales there too. So anyway, we are 118 days away? Something like that, 119. Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. So the people who prepare, invest, plan, pay attention, they're going to be very profitable during this October event. And the people who don't will just have fun at the event. And that's fine, either way. All right, well, GM to that. Okay, quote of the day. Here we go. Quote of the day. Education is simply the soul of society as it passes from one generation to another. Education is simply the soul of a society as it passes from one generation to another. So what kind of education are you focusing on for yourself as well as the little ones around you? Yes, the big ones too. Everyone needs some training, right? Yesterday I had the first time happened. I had a door-to-door salesperson come to my door. First time living on this property, almost 5.5 years. And so that was a very strange occurrence for me. But he was selling education, right? That was his thing. I'm selling education, I'm selling books. And it just reminded me about the value of education. They were selling a book set for my kids. They wanted $1,200 for the books. And then of course he lays on the scripts like, well, don't you think your kid's education is worth it? Which I was like, well, of course it is. So I'm like playing the game with his script. I know the vibe of the line of the next thing he's gonna say. I don't know the exact line, but I've been around enough. And he's going through it, he's doing great. And I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm gonna pay you this much. And I started thinking about like, what are my customers thinking when I show them our $26,000 program? Do I have enough proof? And of course we do. That's why we sell so many freaking education packages. But anyway, my point is that education is so valuable that people will risk their lives wandering into my property to try to sell me some. So if you know what I did? I didn't buy anything from the dude, but you know what I did do? I gave him a $20 bill as a tip. I said, you did a great job. Don't give up. I'm not buying your stuff, but keep after it. $20. Now leave my property. Don't come back. And yeah, amazing. Amazing. I told him I sell education too on his way out, and he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, man. Mostly banking. I started my own bank, and then he just stopped and he's like, what? You can you can have your own bank? And I was like, of course you can. You're in America, dude. You realize the founding fathers fought and stood a line that would not be crossed and died for the understanding that everyone is a sovereign individual. There is no king, there is no ruler. We are all sovereign. And he's just staring at me wide-eyed, and I'm like, hey, like, what are you going to school for? He goes, oh, business administration, business marketing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Have you studied banking? And he's like, no. I think that would probably, if you want to get rich in America, you need to study banking. Do you remember um, what Henry Ford said about the banking system? There's a very famous quote where he said, it's probably best that the American people do not understand the banking system because if they did, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. He was so clear on the corruption around the banking system that he thought if people saw it, it would take one day to overturn it because of the corruption behind it. So anyway, I'm telling him about this, and I'm like, hey, dude, think about in the banking world, if I borrowed $10,000 from you and I'm a bank, another way of saying that is you deposit 10 grand and I pay you 2% on your deposit. And then someone comes to me for an auto loan and they need 10 grand. So I lend it to them at 5%. Okay, so I'm paying you 2%. I'm charging this person 5%. What is my rate of return? And he sits there for a while. He goes, 3. I'm like, come on, dude. You're in college. You're doing all this kinds of fancy brain work, and you're going to say that's 3%? Try again. And he just looked at me and I said, it's not even double digits, dude. It's triple digit. And I said, so if I pay you $2 and then I charge this person $5, and then it clicked, 150% interest. He's like, as soon as you said dollars instead of percent, it all made sense for me. So that's what we do, folks. We are constantly opening people's eyes to the system that they're so wrapped up in, like the system of banking, taxes, insurance. Everything is just like inescapable. So you have to play the game. You need to have life insurance. You need to have velocity banking. You need to have your IRAs and your property insurance policies. You need to have it all, pointed in the same direction to get you out of the rat race, or else you're stuck. And then, of course, it blew his mind when we pointed out the fact that not only are you getting 150% return on that one transaction, fractional banking allows you to do that to 7. So you got 6 more times making 150% return. These banks are making 1,000% return off of people. So, of course, it's imperative you start your own bank. So, anyways, having that conversation with him. And now I'm reminding all of you, start your own banks. Use the wealth acceleration classes inside of your program here. Let me get back to sharing the screen. Wealth acceleration. If you have not watched the wealth acceleration class, it's going to give you such a new language to speak with people on a more wealth language instead of just making money. It's 2 different things, right? There's making money, then there's building wealth. And this is the building wealth language, the building wealth all the verbiage behind it. So this one right here, let's see if do this real quick. Is this going to play? Oh, sweet. I'm going to speed it up.
So the Wealth Acceleration course, especially day 1, is around awareness. Now, awareness, that doesn't sound all seductive, like, oh, I got to have awareness, but here's why it's important. You know where you're set, you'll know where you're not set, but most importantly, where you have financial blind spots. Those financial blind spots lurk in the corners and they confiscate wealth. So if we can address those, people are going to be wealthier just with that awareness. They'll know specifically what to address first, and in that, they'll create a lot more sustainability, a lot more safety and security, and they'll learn to be better investors. The opening session I like the most, even though it might not be the most practical session, just because I have a little bit of freedom to cover this philosophy. And see, philosophy governs our actions. We can have the hardest working people in the world with the wrong philosophy, they're going to still be bankrupt, they're still going to have limited results, they're never going to achieve wealth. And I can help them with a paradigm shift to completely embrace a different way of thinking, and I can go through what does it take to get economically independent in 3 to 7 years. I get to go through what are the 5 keys that lead to prosperity, what does wealth architecture mean, and what does that look like, and then ultimately how do they boost their cash flow because of how they view the world. So I really enjoy that first segment. I hope to see you take this class, plug the leaks, have an awareness of what's going on, improve your financial life, and be further ahead than most of the financial people that have been teaching you up until this point on these topics.
Boom. Be further ahead than the people trying to teach this to you on most of these topics. So I took his 2-day class very seriously. Wealth Acceleration Day 1 and Day 2. The workbook blew my mind. The owner's manual for the new economy. Freaking sweet. So anyway, it just reminded me while I was talking to that education salesman how important it is to be selling education. Like, do you believe the dude believed in his products so much? I have no trespassing signs. I have a gun on my no trespassing sign that says no trespassing. Do I need to speak 12 gauge? Okay, like I'm serious about my privacy. And anyway, this guy's like, well, it's that important that I get this message out and that we get kids understanding, learning, staying ahead of things. And anyway, do you believe in the program enough to go door to door? Obviously, I do, because I did, right? I spent 5 weeks living on a couch, knocking doors, selling education. So anyway, this workbook, if you go through it, you will know more than your bankers, your CPA, your insurance agents, a lot of technical wealth creation, legal stuff that a lot of attorneys don't pay attention to. You're going to know so much. And when I first took this questionnaire, because you got to ask yourself yes, no, uncertain, or NA, and you go through this questionnaire, and I got a terrible score. I had watched a lot of classes, I'd done a lot of things, but the first time I went through it, I got like an 11 out of 100. It was awful. Because I knew about things, but I wasn't doing them, right? And so if you know, but you don't do, then you don't know. So now then I had my checklist. I started working on it for the next 6 months or so. Then I went to the next workshop. We tallied it up again, and then I was in the 80s And then since then, I've been tweaking, getting things closer. I'm still not at 100. But I'm in the 90s now. We're fixing stuff. So as you're going around letting people know, this education is the passport to freedom. How do you start a bank? If you don't have a bank, why don't you have a bank? It's probably because you didn't take this class. You've been in Renatus 5 years and you don't have a bank? Come on. So, wealth acceleration. Take it seriously. Cool. Cool. Okay. Well, the last thing is I just want to remind everyone we are doing the community fun in the sun lake day. That's going to be happening Tuesday. Come in here, Investor Secret Network. Click on the calendar of events. Fire up the grill. Oh, cool. So they got two. They got the Creating Her Empire event Monday night. And then Tuesday afternoon is going to be the lake day. Here's the info right here. Oh, there we go. Deer Creek Cove Marina, Peterson Pavilion, Tuesday, 4 to 9. Please register here at this form so we know who's coming. It'll be a ton of fun. And this will be a great opportunity for some of your leads to see you, to see your other compadres, to, you know, even see Mitch not in a suit, right? Like a lot of people who you're working with, they only see Mitch in the front of the room, all professional. And so some people get a little intimidated by it. When a guest who's on the fence, they don't know that they're on the fence, but then they see out of the suits, regular interacting, I'm a human you can work with, something transforms and they decide to buy. So kudos to Mitch and Maylee and the lit team there in Utah for putting together this event. Take advantage of it. It's hard to get these kind of people all together in one spot. So bring 2 guests, bring 5 guests, and just show them this is going to be the best 26 grand you've ever spent. You spent 26 grand on that stupid car. You spent it on that stupid boat. You spent 26 grand on a vacation 3 years ago to Europe. Come on. Like, it's easy to spend that much money. And you absolutely know it's worth it here. So there we go. And everyone who's doing their first flip challenge right now, keep at it. I see a lot of the posts and the success stories that are going up, the accountability calls, the KPI sheets, the things you guys are working on. It's exciting. I know where you're going with it. So stay focused, spread the good word, let more people know why they need to get into real estate to protect, preserve, and create their wealth. And you could be the person that makes a difference for them. Speaking of making a difference, it's Wealth Wednesday, and we have a powerful trainer, someone who makes a difference in our lives, in our worlds, in our understanding of what important work we're attending to and how to maximize it, how to be honest and ethical, how to do the right numbers on our real estate, and even more importantly, have fun while doing it. When you are looking at this opportunity called Renatus, at the beginning, you might be a little unsure, just like Daine was. He wasn't sure if this was going to work. He knew he needed to make a difference. He didn't want to live in a basement his whole life, which is where he was living when he found this opportunity. He was working a regular bare minimum wage job, right? Just curious about life. What should I do? Where should I go? And, I want to applaud Mitch Nelson because he took the assignment literally and excelled at it. The assignment was make a list of 200 people, call them, and invite them to an event. Turns out Daine Clark was on Mitch's list. They started talking. Mitch said, why don't you come to the meeting and take a look? He saw it and he said, if this is real, if what you're saying is true, I'm in. In his first year, he did his first deal, walked away from his job. Next year, did a few more deals, did a few more. And now he is on a tear. He is on his 10th year in his real estate investing career with us. And he has helped over 1,000 people make money in real estate investing. The guy's got an amazing track record of success, and even more importantly, his ability to teach and make something complex, something easily understood. And so because of his dedication to the craft and to the dedication to the community and what he's working on, the guy's transformed everything about his life, his parents, his kids, his siblings, everywhere in between. He has touched and made a difference. We're very appreciative of his perspective. So let's be lively in the chats. If you got questions, you can come off of mute, and let's give a big warm welcome to our man of the hour, Mr. Daine Clark, GM.
Hey,
GM.
what is up, my friends?
Hey, great to see you.
You? Sorry, I
Fantastic.
got a little bit of a head cold, so I gotta. My apologies if I sneeze or
All right. I've done that
something
once
today.
already on this call.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I hope you guys had some great conversations. I know we went super deep last week. I love the questions. It's funny because I don't talk about this stuff this deep usually until somebody asks, until somebody says something. Um, I was talking to Nate Lambert actually late last night, and same thing. I was just like, dude, I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff, but like some of those meetings are, and it was just an impromptu quick phone call to say hello, really, but turned into this like deep masterminding session, and I love it. I love it. So yeah, love these calls as well. Um,
This is where the magic happens, folks.
and yeah, anyway, I hope you guys had great conversations. I don't know about you, but I got stories because I'm having conversations. But yeah, what do we got cooking today, Michael?
Well, we were looking at, I mean, right now the thing is about interest rates, right? We're looking, the Federal Reserve Chairman got grilled last week or yesterday. Sorry, I just read last week in the chat. Yesterday and today, he's got this Senate hearing committee. He's got to report, and all he can keep saying is we're monitoring the situation, and if we need to, we will adjust rates. But so far, nothing. But what will be interesting is his term is up in a few months, and there's another lady who's the governor on the board, and she's saying, I'll cut rates, I'll cut rates, I'll cut rates.
Is it a voted position?
It's an appointed position.
Okay.
So he will be demoted, or his term will be up, and he'll go back onto the governor's board. And this lady's now saying, promote me, promote me. And she was appointed by Trump in 2018 onto the board. So we might see a change of guard this month, if not in the next 6 months.
Interesting.
She's going to drop rates maybe a whole point. Do you know what that will do? That will boost liquidity like crazy. Because right now, what we're seeing is listings, days on markets getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah,
And
people
also,
dropping prices and
the number of contracts being canceled is at a 10-year high. So they have it under contract. They're getting to the closing to cancel. Right now it's 14.
denied financing or whatever.
Yep, exactly. Something's not lining up perfectly. And 14.3% of contracts were canceled last month.
Interesting.
So, that these are nationwide numbers, right? These are not just and we got different markets and pockets, but it's interesting to see the credit crunch people are dealing with, the adjustment to the tariffs and how many people are trying to exit real estate right now. It's crazy. Lots and lots and
Yeah.
lots of listings.
Yeah. Interesting. Crazy, crazy. Well, can I share a quick story? I
Yeah,
just
let's hear it.
I'm not sure anybody on here who knew Carlos Dominguez, but I was listening to you when I jumped on, just about how Renatus is, I mean, is the best opportunity in the country. And and for those who don't know, Carlos Dominguez passed away a little over a week ago. He was actually one of my first students. I kind of call him my first because I had such a slow start. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't close. I was too shy. I was too timid. I wasn't bold. And Carlos was like the first that I got bold. And um it's so interesting because now like all of a sudden like all these things are like in the forefront of my mind and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing because um I remember everything like it was yesterday. I remember sitting across the table talking Carlos into like, dude, you got to join Renatus. Like this is the best. Like look at what this is doing. And I had just barely seen like a little bit of success, like barely. And and it's funny because he's like, Dane, I'm in, but you got to tuck my wife into it. And so and so I learned, talk to the wife at the same time because now I was like, ah, crap, now I got to do it again. I got to do the pitch again. Like she has to now come to the intro presentation. She now has to do the one-on-one. And so I was like, this was my process, my learning process. Anyway, long story short, she comes and she's just like, yes, we're doing this. Yes. And oh my goodness, dude, they were in a tough situation, just barely scraping by. And I mean, they were looking for an opportunity. And I remember they figured it out. They rubbed 3 or 4 credit cards together. They applied for a bunch of credit cards at the same time and handed them all over and they bought their combo on several credit cards. And the thing that I have never seen, I had never seen before and I've never seen since. Within that week, Carlos came to me and I almost had to laugh, but I'm realizing how brilliant it was. But Carlos came to me with just a sheet of paper that was written on it with a marker. Like they had literally just like in a hurry, like grabbed it and like, you got a pen? Like, oh, we'll use the marker. And on that piece of paper was a list of all the things that they wanted to do. It was their first vision board, if you will. And by golly, they got every single one of them. Like it's man, they were down on their luck. They joined Renatus. They start marketing because they were just like, well, what's the fastest way to money? I was like, well, I'll tell you. You want to do real estate? Talk to people, 4 boxes, and you're gonna have people that are like, I want to do this. Like, I don't have a bunch of money that I could be your passive investor. Like, I'm not a contractor. I don't have a house that I'm trying to sell, 4 boxes. And obviously they're interested in real estate, so they're not box number 4. Like, they're box number 2. And so Carlos started selling Renatus while he was trying to find that first deal and did that first deal because of his efforts and went on to close many, many more. And when I was sitting in the pews at the funeral this last Saturday. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody of you were there, but man, I was ugly crying. Like it was bad. Not a good look for me, but after the ceremony, Patty, his wife, and he has if I'm not mistaken, a 10-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old daughter, and then 2 4-year-old twins. Like he left young kids. That's part of the reason I was just bawling because I was like, my kids are this age. Um, but Patty comes up to me, also ugly crying, but she does it better than I do. She looks better than I do, ugly crying. And was just like, Daine, thank you. You changed our lives. You gave us this opportunity. And I had a chance to talk to her on the phone. And she was like, we're taken care of. We had life insurance. We have all these properties. We have, like, she's like, we're okay. Carlos set us up. She's like, I mean, I'm pissed at him for leaving so soon, but, but dude, Renatus made the difference for that catastrophe to happen. Oh my goodness. Like, that was like a life-changing moment for me to hear her say that it was Renatus. It changed everything for her, for them. She knows exactly what she wants to do or what she's going to do. Thanks to Renatus. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I know I tell people all the time, like, tell stories. Like, stories are where it's at. Like, I've never had this story to tell. Even hearing it from other people. Because I was so, I know there are people who passed away, but I just was so removed that I didn't know. But holy cow, like this, not that we want to promote death, but at the same time, Renatus will help you set yourself and your family and your future generations up. And I had never really grasped that. I mean, I always said it, but I'd never really grasped that until Saturday this last week. And no, love it. I for anybody that needed to hear that, for some reason, I just wanted to share. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you, Bob, for different reasons than I ever thought.
We're
Maybe I
on a
should have done
mission.
that bit at the end.
No, this is good, man. We're on a mission. And that's the thing. Like, we can make a boatload of money. That's awesome. But the only reason you get all the money is because of the difference that it's making. Right? If you're just changing oil or throwing shingles on roofs, that difference isn't that much. So you don't get that much. So the difference we make here in the work we're doing for all of the doubt and the trials that you're going through and the mistakes and the missteps along the way, it's absolutely worth all the work to become the kind of person that can sell these things to have that ripple effect long term on people you may never meet. Now, Daine was personally involved in this one, so he got to see it. But that same thing is happening in this ripple effect of stuff we cannot see. Right? We taught someone, they did the thing, and they kept going, but they didn't stay plugged in, but they kept going. And now they've gone on to bless other people's lives. We'll never know, but we know that it's working. We just don't know to the details like we did with Carlos's family. Every area that we're affecting. So keep up the good work, push through it. I know it's hard. It's not easy to sell. Dane just shared with you, it took him years to figure it out. Same thing with me, but it's absolutely worth it. And, you know, the work is hard and the work is rewarding. So stay focused on the work.
Mhm. Yeah, Pat says, what was he doing before? So, so Carlos, um, I mean, he grew up in El Salvador and was like in mega danger with like local gangs. And he fled the country, made it to the US. Um, and his father immigrated. I think it was after him, and his father was doing construction. And so his father was doing flooring, but he didn't want to do that. And so Carlos was always trying to do something else. And I forget the company, Primerica, basically like an MLM for life insurance. He was basically right at the tail end of his failed attempt at trying to get his Primerica life insurance business up and running. Like they were hungry and it was not working. And and so that's when I met him. It was right at the tail end of that failed attempt to get Primerica, to basically be a life insurance salesman for Primerica. And so, yeah, so I never knew him as in construction. He was always like, oh, he's the Primerica guy. And it was funny because he brought so many people over that also were failing in their attempt to start their life insurance businesses, and was just like, guys, look at this. So much easier to sell than the insurance. I mean, I'm glad that he came from that where he knew the importance of insurance just automatically. But oh, he brought a ton of people over that were just like, this sucks. Real estate. And real estate they did.
So
Oh man.
was that unexpected, Dane? Obviously, he was very young, so was that an
Yes.
expected one? Okay. So he was able to, prepare for
Yeah. It was,
for it.
oh, was his death expected?
Yeah, so sorry about,
No,
to
it
hear
was,
that. That's
it
that's
was,
a
it
big
was an
loss.
accident. Um, he bought a side by side. Like, the way that, and I'm sure Patty is okay with me sharing at least this much, but she said he never did anything for himself. He would just work, 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 work. And she would basically say, here's what we're doing for recreation. And she always liked to travel. And he just did it because she liked to. And so she just started feeling like he never does anything for himself. And so she's like, what do you want? And he's like, I want that new turbo Polaris Razor. And so he bought a sweet side by side and just like did the works to it. Tires, big tires and light bars, and he wrapped it because he was selling Renatus, so he wrapped it in in basically marketing, and it was his maiden voyage. And I know exactly where they were. I know the terrain because I've off-roaded in that area. And if you go off the road in those areas, it is steep. It's not a cliff, but it is steep. And somehow, somewhere, he went off the road and rolled that side by side 20 times at least. And if I'm not mistaken, he was pronounced dead on the scene. He was ejected from the side by side. And like it was so bad that they couldn't just get search and rescue. Like they had to call in a helicopter. And
Oh, so it was an accident.
oh
Oh,
man, yeah,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
it was very unexpected.
Um,
And
Yeah, super crazy because he had just come door knocking with me. Like that month that I spent in Utah, he saw that I was making some posts. So he reached out to me and he was like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just knocking on doors. What are you doing? He said, I want to come. So we spent 2 afternoons knocking doors, and if they weren't interested in Renatus, then we'd sell them his construction services, and and he got
So
some
awesome.
remodeling stuff going on. And but yeah, he was telling me about all the deals he was doing. He had made almost $1 million in 1 year, the prior year, and was being smart with the money, putting it in the right places. And we were just talking about El Salvador and how clean it is. And uh yeah, dude, it was great to see him. And yeah, how unexpected. So what are some lessons from here? One, always get life insurance. Two, um plan for the worst and expect the best. I guess that's the same as get life insurance.
Yeah. 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 Lara says, where was he off-roading? He was in Bountiful. A lot of people know it as it's called the Bountiful B is the parking lot. And so he was up in that area where, I mean, it's super steep, off the road, super steep. But
Yeah, I guess another lesson is death doesn't care. Death
yeah,
doesn't care how important you are, how big your plans were. Doesn't matter one freaking bit to not let that get to your head. As
yeah,
I mean, every day we're risking our lives just getting on the road, right?
exactly. Yeah, you just never know. Crazy. Super unexpected. But
I was listening to, and we can change this topic after this, but I was listening to this guy about a year ago. He was talking about death. He has a book called Death.
hmm.
It's an Indian man named Sadhguru. We've talked about him before.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, he said in that book, he was like, look, every day on the planet, 250,000 to 500,000 people die every day. So when you wake up, if you woke up and go, oh, I'm not one of those 250, and then smile, and then turn, and go look around in your house. Because think about it, if one of those 250 knows 5 to 50 people. So you call all 5 of your friends, they're all alive. Do you realize how lucky you are? Every day, 10 million people are experiencing tragedy because 500,000 people died every day. So if you're not one of those 10 million people that had a tragedy today, smile again and just keep smiling, because one day it will be yours. And so anyway, um, back to the mission, right? Like we had such a um, like the forces we are fighting against with the education at Renatus. We're fighting the banking system. We're fighting the IRS, right? We're fighting the corrupt insurance companies. We're fighting the corrupt Fannie and Freddie Mac institutions. Like it's just a constant fight, and it's a good fight, and it's a worthy fight. And so those of you who are using it, great. Those of you who are selling it, double great, because we can make a huge difference for people. So um, yeah, I love what we do. I could have quit a long time ago, and you could have too, right? But we're now mission oriented, and I see just a fraction of what Bob sees and why he does what he does. Because he could have quit decades ago and had the easiest life. So, yep, attitude of gratitude.
Crazy. But yes, how can we help everybody? What are you guys doing? Who's got I mean, I got more stories that we can share, but who's got stuff that we can help you guys specifically? Questions, comments, deer in the headlights moment that you need help on working through. I mean, anything. Who's got
Well,
stuff?
I got this commercial property downtown, and a man reached out to me and said he's finishing up a development project and is interested in buying mine. or partnering with me. And I was like, well, I don't really partner that well. People call me, hard to work with or what. I'm just kidding. Uh,
Two bulls in a pasture.
so I was like, interesting, because I know I could make about $10 million over 20 years with this property. I don't really want to sell it, but if you want to buy it, I'll sell it to you for $1 million right now. And I'm into it about 550.
Mm-hmm.
Which in Tennessee, it's a disclosure state, so you can look it up in 30 seconds and see. It's super easy. Um, so he goes, oh, I don't know, that's too high. The most I could do right now is about 700,000. So I go and start looking, burp, 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 and I owe 550, but out of all my payments, I'm out 150 in payments over the last several years. So I'm like, that's just break even for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said no, but now I'm trying to figure out like, what if I sell it to him for the 700 that he wants, but maybe I add on 100,000 lien somewhere, or a partner ownership position where my equity is a guaranteed 100 whenever they refi or this payment date, or some way to like lock in an extra little bit of profit so that he can take it from me now and I can still get some future
Mm-hmm.
benefit. So I've just been thinking about that this week. I need to call him back and make a pitch, but I don't want to fumble through my words.
Yeah.
Hey Phil, I'd love to sell it to you at the price you want, but you have to give me 100,000 more in 3 years. Like, that's
Yeah.
the most basic
So,
way, but like, yeah.
so it depends on, um, I just went through this with another guy where you just got to decide like um what do you want to motivate him to do? And depending on what that is, you'll use different documents. So, for example, if you want to motivate him where you can take action against him, meaning like you can say, hey, you're not performing on what our agreement was, therefore I am executing my rights to do something about it. Or do you want to motivate him a little bit more to, um, if he does well, so do you. If he doesn't do as well, neither do you, kind of thing. And so example, um, and there's a couple different, and I'm not an attorney, obviously, but here's basically how I've done it. So, um, you mentioned, filing like a trust deed. You can, so let's say you file a trust deed against the property. Now you would have to figure out if he is buying it where he's getting a loan or is he paying cash?
He said he would be raising equity, probably get 5 partners to bring in 200,000 each.
And so in that case, I'd really try to advocate to say, okay, I'll take first position. You'll take first position. Um, and then bring in those partners and they'll all be equity. So that way you're at the top of the totem pole, get paid first kind of thing. But you say, but in exchange, I will, and then you can actually choose to say, okay, do I want just an interest rate where I just make an interest rate? Or you can actually write in the language of a note and deed, if I remember right. Tennessee is a trust deed state.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have a note and a deed or trust deed, and in the note you can actually specify to say, hey, um, I want to be paid like equity. I want a percentage of the project of the property of the equity, and so you can do that, but it kind of can muddy the water. So because anybody can come up with receipts and expenses and whatever and say, oh, well, look how much the profit was not.
Right.
And so, if you do it that way, just know the risks, and it kind of motivates him to not show how well the project is doing or could do or will do or did do, because the better it does, the more he has to share. But in an honest situation, and if you have good audit proof to say, okay, yeah, like send me those receipts and I want to see it, whatever. And you make that agreement up front, like, hey, the only thing that's going to go into the equation is approved receipts. I've seen this in other really sad situations that thankfully I wasn't involved in, but I got asked to help, that they just submitted, they weren't even receipts, but just, oh, here's a list of all the expenses. And so we didn't make any money. And so they didn't owe anything. And the person that asked me for help was like, Daine, like I'm being told that I'm not going to get anything out of this based on our agreement. And anyway, so it's like, oh, well, did you make an agreement that said that you have to approve the expenditure in order for it to be added to the equation, or you have the power to veto, under good conscience, or I should even say, like, under good faith and good evidence as to why you are saying no, this is not going to be added into the equation. But I think you're picking up where I'm going with this.
Yeah, yeah. Part of it, I mean, we could turn it into either 8 condos or a 35 unit apartment with some
Ah,
commercial space underneath. So, I mean, the potential is huge, but also the cost to build it is 7 figures for sure, right? Multiple,
yeah.
between 5 and 7 million to build this thing. So,
And so in that you can say, okay, let's use your 100 grand example. I'm going to have a trust deed of 100 grand. So that's like, you just say, that's the minimum I want, but I want a percentage of anything above this parameter. And so in that trust deed, like, you're secured on title, you have the ability to foreclose at that point, and you spell out your parameters as to what would constitute, like, hey, you didn't perform, and so I have rights to take action against you. Um, and if you choose that route, I would say, like, choose the number that you're okay with as that minimum, to say, hey, like, what if he's able to prove that we made no money? Kind of like Bruce is saying, like, back end points in a film industry. That's hardly why any films, let's see, hardly any films actually make money. So you're still like, okay, here's my guaranteed paycheck, and the rest would be cream, and or you choose an interest rate, because then it's more, I hate to say guaranteed, but like virtually guaranteed. Like, hey, here's the dollar amount that I want guaranteed, and it's going to accrue at this much interest, whatever. But in that scenario, you have the ability to, like I said, take action against. You could foreclose. You could file a notice of default. If you choose on the partner side, partners don't have a lot of ability to take action against it. I'm going through this with somebody again, and I get hit up all the time, and I can't help everybody, but every once in a while I'm able to understand the situation and say, hey, here's a couple of ideas. But just talk to somebody who is like, yeah, like, I'm basically a partner on all these deals, and there's nothing I can do because it was a joint venture. I'm nowhere near title, and so I make no decisions. He's like, they can just sell the property and not even pay me a dime. Like, because of, he didn't know that. I told him that. I was like, dude, you set yourself up in this situation where you're just a joint venture. There's nothing you can do. And I was like, I would file a notice of interest against that property immediately, because you need to force them to have a conversation with you. And so that's where I'm going with this is, if you choose the partner route, which I'm guessing you probably aren't, there's nothing you can do to take action against them other than in a court of law, which takes a lot of time, a
and
lot of
money.
effort, details, and anyway, complicated.
Yeah.
I don't like courtrooms. If I can avoid them at all costs, I do. And so set your agreements up where you can avoid courtrooms. Um, and so, but if you do that, even if you file the notice of interest, you can't foreclose on a notice of interest. Like, you can't, basically the only time a notice of interest will come up is, let's say he tries to sell it or refinance it. Title sees that notice of interest and they're like, oh, who's this? Michael Huggins. And now you have a forced conversation, forced conversation, forced negotiation, because if he wants to, again, whatever he's trying to do, refinance it or sell it or whatever, you have to agree to remove your notice of interest, which brings him to the negotiation table. And so it is an option, but just, know your ramifications of what you can and can't do if things don't go as you feel they should or as they are agreed. But that's what I'd probably do is do a trust deed, decide on, hey, minimum, here's how much I would want. And so nothing less than this, accrues with interest or potential profit share kind of a thing. And, in that language, make sure that the profit share can't go negative. For example, like I had one of them that, in fact, one of the ones I just mentioned, that's what the other person was trying to argue. It's like, oh, we lost money. And so technically you would need to accept less than your trust deed minimum because the deal lost money. And she was super upset. And I read the agreement. I was like, yeah, it says that. So, and
Oops.
you don't have the ability to veto any of these expenses. Like you basically, the way it's written, like you're going to have to go to court to, and so she ended up just saying, all right, fine, just pay me my money. And she took pennies on the dollar. But anyway, I hope this has given you ideas.
Yeah. Makes me think maybe I could make my like a lower pay me now and a higher pay me later as one option, or
Mm-hmm.
just pay me a little bit more than what you want to pay me now and phrase it so that he just pays me more now and I don't become a hassle for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I would pick the one where I can be a hassle.
Exactly. I would,
So I really want $1 million out of the freaking thing. Um, but there's not many buyers, and he's got a track record. He just finished a 12 unit thing, and he's got a bunch of single families. So I don't get to pick all the buyers, but I'm also not in a hurry. I could wait 5 years.
mm-hmm.
So, but there's this trailer park I'm building now, and if I could put my own money into that instead of borrowing, my ROI would be a lot higher.
So even if you broke even today and got some future value, you're getting money back that's increasing at a higher rate of value than it is to stay there, if I'm picking up what you're putting down.
With less risk.
Okay, yeah. And so there could be some of that motivation to say, hey, you know what, I'll give you your price today if you get your benefit tomorrow,
Yep.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing about commercial multifamily, right? Is it comes in these really slow waves.
Yeah.
So so if you miss this wave, you just hang out for 5 years. You get the next
Yes.
and if we were to make it 35 units, it'd be an 18-month build. And we're on Main Street, so we would mess up traffic for like months at a time. It would be awesome. And I'd be little town famous.
Yeah. Or infamous.
Or infamous, yep. But they're keeping the tradition on this Main Street. Every building that you finish, you have to put a brick with your last name on the very top. So, um, so yeah, if
Interesting.
you go down the street, you'll see dozens of buildings. It's got the brick with the name
Mhm.
on it. So there'd be a Huggins and a Smith up there if we went and did this together.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, big opportunity. And then the trailer park. So last Monday, I was doing a live stream on location because I had to meet the equipment handlers and everything else. And so I gave everybody a little tour. We just cleared out an acre and a half, and we're putting 20 units for long-term RV people. So like you're on a 1 month road trip, uh, bare minimum 1 month to 2 years, actually, whatever.
Yeah.
Minimum 1 month. and then we'll put a little rec room, playhouse, schoolhouse kind of thing in there, and I'll have some vending machines, and that thing's gonna make us. It'll be about a an 80% ROI. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that's what's taking our time this summer, which is why I was thinking maybe I just sell that other commercial property and
Yeah. So you either go raise the money or you've got the money right there
yep.
sitting in that commercial property, but it, reduces opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Go borrow to finish this one while the equity sits in that one. Mm.
Or
Or
just use the
sell
equity.
this and use my cash for that, increase my ROI. You know what helps decide this is playing the Cash Flow 101 board game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that because this is that scenario, right? The deal card just came up, and TikTok, your turn.
Yeah.
Your turn. Are you going to take it or leave it? Right?
Yes.
Those decisions. So, if you guys don't play Cash Flow, I highly recommend it. It is very real life applicable. Laura's got a question. GM Laura.
Is she typing it or
Yeah,
can
I'm
she come?
sorry. No, no,
Oh,
no. I
perfect.
got it. I was running and I do have a question and I'm like, I'm
Uh-huh.
asking the question and I didn't even click on the button. Anyway, I do have someone close to me that went through a situation, similar situation that what you're sharing, where he was a partner in a deal and exactly the thing that you said happened to him. Like there was no he was supposed to be
No
on title,
recourse.
but was never put on title. And the property was sold, and everybody got paid except for him.
Oh,
And now
no.
they owe him money. So I don't want to get scared and think that it will always be that way and that I can never do a transaction with other people. But I just want to make sure I understand what you said. So
Mhm.
the way to prevent that is to have a trust deed. Yes.
Depends on what state you're in. But if
Oh,
you have a trust deed state, then
well,
yes.
let's say I'm in Utah. So
Okay, yeah, trust deed state.
okay. And then make sure that the wording says what? That I have control over the
So
expenses or what is it?
I believe it is Chris Albin that
Okay.
talks about contracts, and
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember which class it is. It's anyway, Chris Albin is the instructor that I got this from, but he goes through a section where he's like, whenever you do anything, he's like, I just make sure that the contract says that Chris gets paid. And so
Yeah.
basically that's what you're doing is
Okay.
whatever agreement you agree on, make sure that it just says that Lara gets paid. And here's how. And if Lara doesn't get paid, that here's what
Okay.
Lara can do. And and if you're okay with how it's all written, and let me back up.
Okay.
When you're making these agreements with people, the state of Utah actually just changed this in their template documents when it comes to seller financing, at least. But
Mhm.
but the state of Utah basically just came out and said when you're entering agreements, whose side is going to write up the documents? And I love that Utah did this. It says, okay, here's our general rule of agreements on seller financing. And is the seller going to take care of writing up documents, or is the buyer going to take care of writing up documents, aka do it themselves
Mm,
or hire an attorney?
mm,
I always check the box. I'm writing up the documents because I'm the one
mm.
that wants to set the agreement, if you will. And so that's probably one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is when you're doing these deals, and obviously that's just the example of seller financing, but when you're doing these deals, if you're partnering with somebody else, check the box, if you will. It's a invisible box when it's more custom of a deal, but basically have the mindset that you are going to write up those documents and
Okay.
you'll do it your way and you'll hire the proper professionals. My rule of thumb is
Hmm.
there's a saying here, I'm trying to, I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember. But basically, you'll always spend the most money the first time. So let's say that
Mm-hmm.
your first deal that you do stuff like this, you'll spend the most money because you're going to hire a real attorney, you're going to hire real professionals and you get it done. But then the next time you have the template from the previous deal. And so maybe you don't have to spend any money on the next one, especially if it's cookie cutter the same, because now you have all the templates. And so anyway, so that mindset will produce the proper actions, I guess is what I'm saying. Like we don't have to, we can, but we don't have to spend the time on this call to say, hey, here's exactly what to have, put everything to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the mindset of like, I will take care of the documents to illustrate the agreement that we made verbally with that other person, and you'll hire the proper people to do so,
Okay.
attorney, whoever. Um, and so yes.
And that
Case by
class
case.
was Chris Alvin, you said?
Yeah, Chris Albin, I forget the class name, but it's like real estate essentials or one of his
Yeah,
basic.
yeah, Chris Alvin. Yeah, if this happens, Chris gets paid. If this happens, Chris gets paid. Oh,
Yes.
and if it happens, Chris gets paid.
Yes. And so
Okay, that's awesome.
if you're putting money into somebody's deal,
Right.
your own especially, um, my favorite way to do it is ways that just give me maybe not more control,
Mm-hmm.
because a trust deed doesn't give you a ton of control
Mm-hmm.
other than within its own parameters of, okay, did they honor the trust deed or the note, yes or no? And if they
Right. That was
did,
that was another question in my mind because I did share Renatus with someone
mhm.
once and they bashed me saying that, oh, you cannot. I know so many people that have gone into transactions and lended money and they had a trust and it didn't do anything. Like it didn't protect them at all. I'm like, well, I guess I
Yes.
don't know enough.
Oh, were you on? Let's see, we talked about this. Michael, when was the time that you said, Dane, give me 3 reasons to not, let's see, 3 mistakes that people make when they're lending their money.
Yeah,
It was only a couple weeks ago. Were you
yeah,
on that call by
three
chance, Laura?
episodes ago, I think.
Um, Michael, is there a way that people can look stuff like that up?
Yeah, we got our fancy YouTube channel.
Oh,
So, Laura, if you weren't on that call, go go review that one. But in a nutshell, it's not just about the trust deed,
mm,
because if you have $150,000 trust deed, in fact, I think I told this a story of almost this exact situation. I had I had a $300,000 trust deed on a house that was only worth 350, but that same house also had another $300,000 trust deed. So in other words, there was $600,000 of debt on
mm.
a $350,000 house.
Oh,
But because we wrote it up where Dane gets paid, and we even put at the end first, Dane gets
okay.
paid first, I was protected and I was able to
Mm,
take action against that property and get paid. And the other person that had a $300,000 trust deed also, I'm really sad to say, but they didn't get one dime out of
mm,
that property, not even a penny out of
mm,
that property. And so chain of title matters. And I bet you that some people that are coming to you and saying, oh yeah, like they had a trust deed and they didn't get crap.
mm-hmm.
That was why. Because the trust deed said, oh, so and so gets paid second,
First.
third,
Oh,
fourth, fifth. And by that time, there was no money to go around.
yeah.
Like, and um and it's so interesting because when I say this to people, they're just like, holy crap, duh. Like, what was I thinking?
Mm,
Like, of course, that means what was I signed up for, but they didn't know it. And so make sure that you just are informed that you know, like, hey, so let's say I've given you a bunch of stuff. So study chain of title, loan to value, and let's see, there was one more that I was going to say. Chain of title, loan to value. And then probably, and then basically like we were talking about, what does the contract say? Because in many cases, I shouldn't say many cases, in at least one case, it doesn't matter what the contract says. If the contract says that, oh yeah, Lara gets paid third or fourth or fifth or whatever, and your loan to value, you didn't do the loan to value and the chain of title research,
Mm,
you might as well just kiss that money goodbye.
mm. Okay.
And so yeah, so those three things. Have them say that Lara gets paid, study chain of title, and study loan to value.
Chain of
Title
title, loan
check,
to
yes.
value.
Chain of
Okay.
title. Get a title check, or in Utah they call it a title report or title commitment, which is basically the number 2, chain of title, because it'll tell you if you go use a title company and say, hey, can I get a title report or a title commitment on this property? It will tell you, oh, you are already in third, fourth, fifth position.
Mm.
And so run the other way, basically.
Okay.
Basically, in fact, I just ran into one, and sorry, you guys are gonna feel like all my stories are just these terrible, like they just come up in situations like this, I guess. Um, for every terrible story, I guess we've got 10 good ones, but but I just ran into one where that's the story is there's like, I think 5 different positions, and I get a call from somebody who is in the 5th, and they're like, Daine, help me. Like, what can I do? And I'm just, I say, okay, let's pull title. So we looked at title, and I basically told him, like, dude, you can basically kiss your money goodbye. And here's why.
Mm.
Because so and so is getting paid first, so and so is getting paid second, and then you are 5th. And so your trust deed is worth as much as the paper it's written on. Sorry. But those 3
Okay.
things, make sure that it says Lara gets paid, study chain of title, and loan to value. I've done deals where I was in third position. In fact, I just did one where I was in third position, but the paperwork says Daine gets paid, chain of title, I was in third position, but my loan to value, I was still, I know I was less than 65% because that's just my rule of thumb. My personal rule of thumb is I will not go above 65% loan to value. And so I was like, okay, fine. Daine gets paid. I'm third position. So 2 other people get paid before I do. But my position is 65% of the value of the home. And that's current value. And so even if they don't honor the Daine gets paid, I could buy out the first and second completely and then take action against the property. Or I could just take action against, let's say I didn't have the means to buy out the first and second. I could just take action against the property as the third position because the loan to value is good enough.
Mm.
And I could get
Okay.
my money back.
Thank you so
So,
much.
but yeah, great question. And I it's sad that I hear this as much as I do, stories like this. Because people just people don't get it for some reason. And so don't be that person. Now you know. Anyway, Pat says, let's see, I'm in SoCal. I have an automatic 2024 tax return extension due to the fires. I'm looking for a new CPA. Referrals, please. Anybody have a referral for Pat? As a CPA or for a CPA? Cool. All right, we're almost 9:30. Anybody else?
This was that
Got a
chart I
final
wanted to
question.
tell you about real quick. 15% of pending home sales were canceled in May, the highest in the last 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And this is from Redfin.
Nationwide. What's that?
This is from Redfin.
Interesting.
Redfin.
And Redfin would know. Redfin is like basically the MLS, but nationwide.
So one reason why I'm bringing this up is when you guys are going out there and making your purchases and doing your bidding, just know that right now when you're going to sell it, that the buyers right now are canceling the highest that they've ever canceled. So you need to make sure to position yourself so that either they don't have to cancel when they're buying because the numbers are come out right with appraisals, or add in extra hold time to get your second buyer lined up. Run your numbers.
Or even allow backup offers. Things that I'm doing are making earnest money hard, in small amounts and say, oh yeah, we'll accept your offer, but this much earnest money is hard and the rest is refundable. And or when I get an offer, so like I just got one where, and typically I don't do this. I just don't like them, but I got one where it was subject to them selling their property. And I typically just run the other way with those. But we did our homework and it made perfect sense to say, you know what? Yeah, sell your house and buy this one. All the stars aligned basically to say, yeah, we'll take that one. And so I think that's probably one of the first that I've ever accepted because I don't love the ones that they have to sell their house to buy mine.
Right.
But yeah, and that one's closing here in a couple weeks. But yeah, let's see. Glad I've been making conservative offers. Yes. Yeah, when you're buying, know that as well. Like people are getting canceled on. And so you can come in and be like, hey, we'll close. Say stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, right now the nation is in its highest ever in the last 10 years of people canceling contracts. We will close. And
take my offer.
Yes. I know it's lower.
That is a great negotiating point, folks, when you go out there and say, look, your chances of getting canceled on are the highest they've been in the last 10 years. You better just take my offer.
Yeah. Say it a little nicer though, but yes.
I think I skipped that class.
Go read How to Win Friends and Influence People and then wordsmith that in a way that people are like, this is my friend. I must accept their offer.
That's good. That's good.
But yes. And be like, maybe make a parameter of houses that are under contract and when they fall out of contract that you get a notification. Redfin will do that, but you get a notification and then you swoop in and be like, hey, that sucks that they canceled. Accept my offer.
We're
Even though
friends.
it's lower, we will close. And a great way to come in and look like the hero.
Yep.
Like, oh my gosh, those guys just ran me through the ringer, and you come in like, I'll close, all cash. We'll close in 5 days. You ready?
But it's gonna be this price.
Yeah. But here's my
Yeah, I
deal.
was gonna, mention that part of the cancellations because the lenders now are really tightening up too. Like even I have one that's closing on Friday, and we're just waiting basically the clear to close. Everything they have all the documentations, they have all the income, everything because this is a full doc, and now they're just saying, oh yeah, we need to, get this and that. I'm like, oh, why just now? So they're having this, quality control department that are actually kind of looking into more deals. And even sometimes, there's already a clear to close, and the lender would say, we won't do it, so they can't close. So those are also some of the reasons why people can't, because they
Yeah.
can't close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Scott
Yes.
says normally I only have contact with the realtor. Are you saying to talk to the owner? If so, I mean, if it's listed on the MLS, yeah, like don't try to cut the realtor out because you'll make enemies, like bad, believe me. Um, have your realtor talk to their realtor. You know, if it's already on the MLS, have your realtor talk to their realtor and just prep your realtor what to say, you know, coach your realtor what to say and say, hey, here's what we can do and here's what we can say. If it's an old listing, you know, that's a different story. Like if this listing is about to expire, which most listings are, you know, any realtors on the line confirm if this is true, but most listings are like 6 month terms. At least that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's, you know, if it's an old listing, then yeah, maybe it would be appropriate to reach out to them and be like, hey, if you end up firing your realtor, you know, Michael said that Family Tree Now, or another one is called um, let's see, True People Search. Yeah, True People Search. Let me double check that. True People Search. And I noticed that between the two, Family Tree Now and True People Search, yeah, truepeoplesearch.com, between those two, they'll have different information sometimes. Or yeah, Fast People Search. Um, Sometimes they'll have different, you know, whether one has an email or has a different phone number or an address or whatever. Um, and you call them and basically that's the pitch. Instead of being like, oh, let's cut the realtor out, like, hey, if you're gonna fire your realtor soon, keep me in mind. You know, so that's kind of disarms them a little bit. Um, and yeah, Scott, you can have a conversation directly with them, or go knock on the door. You know, like Michael was saying that they were just knocking doors recently. Like that is such everybody should knock on at least. Let's see, I want to come up with a real number. Everyone in their lifetime should knock on at least 50 doors. Yeah, I'm gonna say 50 doors just for the experience.
Oh yeah. Change your life.
Yeah, I know Maylee wouldn't agree with me. She would probably say like 1,000. But I know where I came from, and I wouldn't have done it when I was where I was because I was, you know, shy, timid, quiet, you know, farm boy. Like everyone should just at least experience because like the first few, I wouldn't count those as experience because you're just yeah, like don't go knock on 10 and then quit. Like go knock on 50 doors because then you'll basically get all of the steps or all the stages, if you will, of like the timid and you get those out of the way and then like, you know, by like 10 to 20, you're just like, all right, I think I get this. And then by 50, you're just like, yeah, what's up, guys? Your confidence will just skyrocket from door one to door 50. And because you just know what to expect or whatever. It's amazing. And it's so funny because that applies to everything. Like everyone should go make 50 offers on houses because same thing. That first offer, you're gonna be like, you know, fumbling and and then by offer 10, you're just like, dude, I get this. And then all the way to offer 50. Just get them out of the way. Like and same thing goes to like Michael said in the beginning. Like Mitch talked to his 100 people or 200 people names list, and I was one of
Mhm.
them. Um, talk to that first 50 people because you'll get through all of that riffraff of like the fumbling and then all of a sudden you're a pro. And so if you're doing a 200 list and you do the first 50, you get those out of the way. I mean, you might get some of those people that, I mean, they were going to buy no matter what you said because they were praying for you. But then the next 150, you're just like, dude, we get this. Confident. Like I know what a lot of people might say, or you know, you see all the objections and you just know what you start seeing the human patterns. It's so interesting when you do it a lot. and all of a sudden you start picking up on human patterns. It's just human nature, even that you like can call it. You can kind of call it in many times, and you're just like, oh, they're doing this one, and it's just becomes normal life. It's so interesting. But yeah, all right, we're past 9:30. Great questions. Great questions. Thank you guys for asking those. And Laura, now you know what to study. Everybody should study that.
Yep. It was good stuff. I knocked on neighborhood doors and they won't speak to me anymore.
You got those
See
ones out
me?
of the way.
Exactly. Did yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, another great reason why you should go out there and promote this program is the awesome morning chats and insight discussions we get to have as per our tight-knit group here. So keep spreading the word. Make sure you are out there treating it like a rescue mission, and you'll have a lot more fun making sales.
Absolutely.
So tomorrow's the big showdown, the networking meet and greet. Got our Saturday workshop, and then remember Lake Day next Tuesday. Awesome. All right, folks, if you need us,
Peace.
call us. We'll be there for you. Bye.